not different. How is this done? So the ranking that Hofstede arrived at was based on a survey of some 75,000 people across all these countries. So there is a lot of criticism also of the results. So interesting though, I think you were saying that one of you said it's not that unequal. So are there different opinions amongst women here? You think it's unequal or equal?
Well, compared to other countries,
it is more?
much more equal than.
Okay. Relatively more equal. Yeah. Maybe the definitions are, different for us, each of us, as we are looking at this.
I'm going to pinpoint one thing, and the number of students.
Yes.
In engineering faculties, the number of women percentage of students in engineering faculties in Egypt are probably higher than same percentage even American universities.
That proves a lot, actually. That's incredible.
What they do, this later on, depends highly on nature, depends highly on their decision to stay at home or to do this and that. So it's very free, it's their decision, whether they are not as many engineers, females and males in the
Workforce.
That depends highly on their decision, on the female's decision to not go into the market. But it's not because of inequality. They are, I'm for equality.
This is because we are still looking inside. We are not comparing ourselves. The people who are saying that there is equality and inequality is that because we don't compare to other countries in Africa and Asia and even in Eastern Europe, so on, and Latin America.
Very important.
So they are just seeing Egypt as the only country, so they are looking inside. So that's, and we want more of freedom,
Equality.
rights, and so on. So that's why they are seeing that they are in a better condition.
Yeah.
They usually don't know what they want. Yes, they don't have.
Clear idea, maybe.
Give you another number. I work in number of multinational companies, and usually in any engineering company, you rarely find a single woman, a single engineer, a single one. I work, excuse me, at ITWorks, we have 600 people, and we have almost half of them women, and one of the VPs of ITWorks is a woman.
Okay, I think now we will get into a huge debate only about equality, so I'm going to quickly move on before anything happens. Okay. But you see, the point is you've got to ask yourself these questions, depending on whether you're designing and innovating for a country or for many countries. It's important to compare. Another common thread across emerging countries is that the typical global consumer, in fact, will be very different because the emerging countries are going to be the majority. And why are they going to be different? Because in emerging countries, individually, customers or consumers may be poor. But collectively, they are rich because it's a large population in most countries. Whereas in the developed countries, they are individually rich and collectively rich. So what happens because of this? Well, again, I'll give you examples from India, since that sort of is where I do a lot of my work. So this major innovation called the sachets. I don't know if you know about the sachets. The shampoo sachets is what it started with. It's a big case study now. So the big consumer goods companies, they are the ones who are most agnostic about which country and what politics, as long as they can sell stuff. So there they came in saying, okay, 1 billion people in India. That means we can sell so much shampoo. Of course, that's not right, because their shampoos are overpriced. They're huge bottles. They are made for societies where a certain amount of, overuse throwing things away quickly, etc., is part of the culture. It's not a judgment of good or bad, but it's part of the culture. Unfortunately, India is different. We want to, when we buy something, we think the whole generation will use that. So if we buy a car, we feel for 40 years that car is going to be with us. If anybody thinks that we're going to throw the car after every 5 years and buy a new car, they're joking. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Imagine a guy who was serving somebody in the US, mm-hmm. for instance, the call center, and he lives in India.
Mm-hmm.
The service delivery, is there any research about this? And how the customer perception, how to deliver the service to specific areas?
Yeah, there's a lot of research on that. Lots of research on call centers and, you know, what it does, customer perception in America and the West when they know it's somebody in India or in Philippines, and the reactions, the problems, the conflicts, how you resolve them. There's a lot of research on that, a lot of stuff. Yeah. No, because that's not an area that I looked at. It was products that I looked at mostly, but there's a lot of stuff, and I can send you some research that is interesting in that area about call centers and this conflict. So anyway, so there came Unilever, and they decided, oh, you know, there's such a good opportunity here. There are 1 billion people. All we need to do is change the whole packaging and pricing to suit this local context. So instead of the big bottles, they suddenly came out with these small packets for single-use shampoo, which was unheard of as a product at that time. Because they realized very early on, this is a country which is individually poor but collectively rich. If they can get even 50% of the 1 billion buying their little sachets of shampoo, they're going to make a hell of a lot of money. That shampoo sachet, today there is no product you don't get as a sachet, not only in India, across Southeast Asia and China. Everything you can get as a sachet, from perfume to hand soap to tobacco to everything. Because everybody as an individual can spend a little bit of money and buy something that they want to use only infrequently. And so they feel it's justified to spend that much. They don't want to buy a big bottle of shampoo because they don't want to use shampoo every day. They think it's wasteful and it's too expensive. So if you know that this is the constitution of the market, you will innovate keeping that in mind. Emerging markets, because they are so varied in terms of internally, they have poor people, a lot of them. And of course, there's middle class that is growing, and there's a very small section of rich. So, do the poor get any innovation, get any fruits of innovation? Absolutely. Because corporations, local particularly, as well as some multinationals, are waking up to the sachet. This one, Neelamma, in a small village in South India, very poor. Husband was a stone cutter. Stone cutter, just, you know, with the stones from the quarry, would cut and get some money. He was the only bread earner in the family. Terrible life. This project with HP, as we looked at the whole ecosystem of someone like her, first, it seemed like a stupid exercise. Why on earth would you spend money looking at somebody like her? Did she even deserve that attention? Oh, come on, she was so poor. Let her lead her miserable life. But looking at that population, what emerged was very interesting. So the entire network of villages do not have photographers. Yet, particularly in that context, they celebrate hundreds of occasions in the home. It's almost because there is nothing else that they have access to in terms of entertainment, etc. So when the day the child is born, the day the child has the first tooth, the day the child cries a little, the day the child doesn't cry, the day the child walks, the day the child falls, there's always a reason to celebrate. And when they celebrate, they want to record that. They want that memory. But there are no photographers in those villages. So what we did was, the final concept was, Neelamma suddenly was now given the opportunity to carry a solar-powered camera, a Polaroid, solar-powered, easy to use in local language labeling. Why solar power? Because there's no electricity that is reliable in those villages. This pack, she could be trained in 2 hours. She rents it. She doesn't have to buy it. She rents it from HP. And then she is the photographer. She is the itinerant photographer in all the villages. She brings such joy and a better income for herself. There are so many opportunities to improve the quality of life of millions of people in the emerging markets if you look at it from a different perspective.